Hi friends, the purpose of this video is to show you how to do a quick little mastering chain so that the final volume of your tracks are suitable for public release. That means, there'll be sort of a similar volume to the kind of music you might hear wherever you listen to music. Not too loud, not too soft, just about right. So here's a little track that I put together for this. In the middle, I've deliberately made it a little bit too loud, okay? So when I hit play here, you can see in the master volume here that things are going red, and as we know, red clipping there is not what we want. Now, one thing, of course, you can do is turn everything down, and if you don't have any automation, it's very easy just to turn each thing down by, say, 5 dB. So say this one's 0, you could click on it and write it here, -5. And then this one is -6. No, that's part of a group, so you wouldn't need to turn anything down. But you can see you get to this one, and there's automation on it, and it's hard to do it that way. So one thing you can do, if things are all too loud, but you like the balance that you have, you like the relative balance between the different instruments, is if you go over here into audio effects and then into utilities, there's a machine called utility, and what you could do is drag utility onto each group or track and do the subtraction there. That way it'll keep your balance that you've got through automation and so on, and then you can just take everything down by the same amount. So if I'm going to drag this onto my drum track, utility here, and go here, gain, and I'm just going to click here and write -5. And then what I can do is Command C, copy that utility and paste it here onto the bass track, -5. The chords track, -5. The melody track, -5. And then lastly, my string chords track here, -5. And now you'll see that when I play here where it was peaking before, if I now play the master, you can see everything's safely green. In fact, it's actually sort of too low. If I flip around here, you can see that it's sort of hanging out around -12, which is going to be just too soft to be commercially competitive. So now that we've brought it down, now we're going to bring it back up again. So once again, we used utility on every track the same to bring it all down by -5. And doing that preserves the balance that we had, the balance between the instruments, but brings it all down so that there's no clipping here. Of course, if your track already had no clipping, if everything was in the green and there was no red, then you can sort of pretty much start the tutorial here. Once you've got everything down under the red, now we need to go into the master track where presumably you have nothing, or maybe a filter or something. And now we're going to do a double prong process to bring it all back up. The first thing we're going to do is go into dynamics and bring in the glue compressor. So I'm going to drag the glue compressor into the master track. And what the glue compressor does, as the name suggests, it kind of glues all the elements together. It's a tricky little device. I really like this device a lot. So I'm going to start it from where it was loudest before. And basically, if the threshold is at 0 and the makeup is at 0, this device is not doing anything. What it'll do, well, let me do it first. So here, I'm going to drag the threshold down until this needle just starts moving just sort of between the 0 and the 5. And what it's doing is, as a compressor does, it's making the highest parts of the track a little bit softer. So the loudest peaks, it's of the whole track, not of individual instruments, it's going to make them a little bit softer. And you'll see it doing that when the needle starts moving. The needle is basically showing how much volume it's taking off. So watch the needle as I start bringing the threshold down. See it just start to move about there. And you can hear it's getting softer, right? That's what it's doing. It's making everything softer. So I want to just take off a little bit of the peaks just to sort of even things out a little. That's a good amount of movement there. Maybe even a bit too much. You can see it's largely moving because of this track here. So I might actually just take that down a bit. I think I just turned it up a bit for the example, but anyway. There we go. So now I can take the threshold down a little bit more. And so now I've lost volume. Now to bring that volume up, I've got to bring up the makeup volume. That's where it's going to make up for lost volume. But of course, you might be thinking, well, how do I know now that I'm not going to go over the red? Because watch this. Watch the meter here, the master. When I bring the makeup back up, see if I push it too far, it's going to go back into the red. And that's where our other device here called a limiter comes in. What the limiter does is the limiter stops it going over 0, which is when it goes into the red. In fact, if you can set the ceiling at minus 0.3, it's not even going to touch on 0. So basically, this meter here, when it starts showing a bit of orange here, it means you're just tickling the top of the limiter, and that's what you want to do. So once again, I have turn the threshold down till I'm just tickling, tickling the meter here and bringing down the peaks. Then I'm going to bring up the makeup gain to make up for it, and I'm going to just bring it up until I start seeing some orange here. See those little, you saw it a second ago. There we go. You can see there just little bits of orange coming down there, which means the limiter's doing its job. So for this particular example, I had to bring the threshold down to about minus 15 just to start cutting off some of the peaks. Brought the makeup up to about 8 dB, and then just leave the limiter as it is, but brought the makeup up till it just starts tickling here. And if you do that, then when you export the track, so I'm going to do an export now, Command-Shift-R, and I'll do a wave. And when you export the track, then you'll see that the levels are going to look good as well as sound good, and that means it's going to be competitive when you put it onto Spotify or Bandcamp or wherever you're going to upload your tracks. And just so you can see that, I'll save that and make a new Ableton set, and I'll drag in that thing I just created. And where is it? There it is, mastering chain demo. And you look at it visually and you'll see that it looks nice and loud. You see the peaks are where they want to be, basically, for it to be a competitive sounding track. So I want you to do that on your tracks that you submit for me. Cheers.